So I was contacted by a friend of mine from London, which is becomes the genesis of this story, really. BBC News is reporting that people are using in Britain Grinder to meet with men and to solicit them under false pretenses. Then they meet the men, beat and rob them, often hold them hostage while they raid their bank accounts, their homes, or what have you, and steal everything that these people have. It is really a tragic case. Apparently, this has happened over some time. Um, Last year into this year, over a preceding 10 months, and they finally busted this gang, five men, all in their 20s. And what they were doing, they were convicted last year of stealing 100,000 pounds from men in Birmingham and Derby over a 10-month period. Here's the article in BBC News. Sadly, of course, these are all Muslim or African, North African people who, of course, will get people who are against those type of people or who are anti-immigrant that will stir their interest too in creating more trouble. This gang last year had been doing this, and they had gotten each sentences ranging between 12 and 17 years in prison. And of course, what they were doing is, again, tricking victims and stealing everything from them. Apparently, this is something they had been doing for some time. Their other scam prior to this was tricking victims by pretending like they were injured on the side of the road, and when somebody would stop and assist them, they would jump up and their buddies would jump out of bushes or what have you and beat the daylights out of them, steal everything that they had, and then post, of course, as these young people love to do, post on online in social media platforms boasting about what they did. So, um, what's really interesting about this, not only did they create tremendous injuries from dislocated shoulders to broken noses and eye sockets and head damage, but and of course using their phones to do wire transfers, etc., which are additional charges, right? Not only that, according to the courts, and this is really interesting, the CPS, which in Britain stands for the Crown Protection Services, not Child Protective Services, Crown Protection Services, it says that the CPS prosecuted the case as a hate crime against LGBTQ people, which carries with it an increased sentence to fully reflect the gravity of offending that is motivated by hostility based on sexual orientation. Well, I would suggest to this Georgina Davies, who is a spokesperson for the Crown Protection Services, that it's also motivated by the so-called zero tolerance, very permissive culture that allows for people to almost institutionalize the hatred of people who have committed a sex offense, regardless of whether that's flashing or doing something far more heinous. All of these situations do nothing but breed hatred and resentment, which we're seeing in our own General Assembly right now. So yesterday, um, Senate Bill 844, which expanded the registry by increments in this way, um, passed the Senate subcommittee led by Scott Sorovel, who should know better as an attorney and a law partner in Fairfax. It passed the committee 13-0 because it was presented to them not as an example of incrementalism, as we indicated in our letter to them, but as an example of a loophole that they had to fix in the law. You see, the claim of the state patrol is three ways, really. One is that there is a loosening or a excuse me, a loophole in the law, and the loophole says that there's no real impetus for tier one and two people, that is, people on the registry for 15 years, as I am, people on the registry for 25 years, as many others, to re register, even though we are told in court, and I believe it's in the law, that we are to re-register annually. Okay. They want to make furthermore, so they want to close that loophole just in case any of us might get another idea that we shouldn't do it, even though we're told that we have to do it. And as far as I can see, this is not a problem anywhere. In fact, as we pointed out in our letter, they come by many times more than what they're allowed to do under the law. They will come by and they will say, "Oh, I'm going to do your residence." Well, somebody was just here, taking my picture. Oh, that's different. That's an annual thing. This is to verify that you live there. Okay. And then a few months later, somebody will come by and say, I need, or say, call you and say, I need to come by. And you will say, well, they just came by, for the annual. Oh, no, no, that's different. We do an employment verification. So in effect, they're coming about 3 or 4 times a year anyway. And of course, if you have a new job, if you have a new email at that job or elsewhere, you are required to re-register anyway. It's called an update registration, but in effect, it's re-registering because they go through everything all over again. They do the fingerprints again, and it is by increment making things more difficult. One of the Republicans, either Senator Obenshain or McDougal, said, "Well, that's good because we gotta keep these people in line. We got to make sure that these people are maintained on this list." Of course, they don't care what the law says, only when it's convenient. The law doesn't really suggest that anybody's violating this right now. The State Patrol didn't suggest that anyone was violating this. Indeed, they don't care even more about the independent evaluators from other scholarly facilities and academies of so forth who write articles about this, who talk about this from think tanks on, even their own think tanks, to say this isn't really a big problem. This isn't a problem. The list is the problem. The list is not cost effective, costs millions of dollars to implement, and hundreds of thousands every single year to implement. You are under the thumb of SORNA to some extent, which is the federal guidelines, and you will get more money. People don't realize this. The states get more money the more of the SORNA guidelines or extortionist demands almost, because if you do all of them, you get all the money. If you don't do all of them, you don't get all the money from the feds. And worse than that, Virginia is looking at other incremental sneaky increases too. For example, there's another bill which we'll be addressing soon, which says that if you have been convicted of an offense for which you cannot be living near uh, educational facility, a park or whatever, and there's some few um, uh, sections of the code where that is the case, and you get caught in one of them within 100 feet, that's a new violation. Okay. So imagine you're in a different area of Virginia, your car breaks down, you'll hike through a field, unaware that that field may be attached to a school, and you cut through it, or you cut around it, and somebody catches you, and maybe it's at night at dark. They call the police because they're worried about some trespassers, and they pick you up, and now you're getting for trespassing, and most importantly, you're getting another felony. Great, huh? The General Assembly can never figure out a way to solve a problem without making it a new penalty or a new felony. And why? Why? Why would that solve the problem that doesn't really exist? Okay, once again, this is what they're doing. So we hunker back to the story here where if we didn't have a law which emboldens people to create more fear or more apprehension or their worst, baser instincts to come forth and play, then we would have fewer problems. But in fact, what we need is more restorative justice programs such as Caitlin Grimley, who actually committed felonies, who actually had sex with a teenage boy or two. That's what we need, more of that. And I would hope if Ms. Grimley is listening to this, she might contact me so we can talk about a bill where we would actually do that. Because overall, she's probably a very nice person, even though for those who attack me online for doing nothing but helping children get better, to improve their lives, to help their intellectual and social development, and to get them into good schools and in good paying jobs, would stop attacking me instead and start listening and looking at our records and seeing that we need more people in Virginia anyway. Last I heard in the governor's report, 6 out of 10 jobs were filled in Virginia. We needed many more. His recent state of the state says that we need the data centers, for example, because we need more jobs. But what we really need are people to fill those jobs. So, in short, stop making things difficult on people. Stop making who have committed a crime or who haven't committed a crime or who have been accused and even adjudicated as having committed a crime. And stop emboldening fear and apprehension and violence against people simply because of their sexual orientation or because they had committed a crime or because they're on a damn list, which does nothing to protect anybody. And you can see some of the results that have actually been happening out there. And it's time that we started addressing these things. And expanding the registry is a really bad idea. Increasing the sex stings, which allow for the registry, is a worse idea. This is Norman Michaelation for the 14th day of January 2025. Have a good day.